Welcome to Green and Woke on YouTube. We hope you enjoyed this segment. The link to the entire podcast can be found in the description box. Today we're joined by Dr. Shirley McKellar, the wife of a retired Dallas educator, a mother, grandmother, a U.S. Army veteran who served overseas in the Army Nursing Corps, an activist, and now the Democratic candidate for Texas' 1st Congressional District, who is running against Louis Gohmert. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Kimberly. Let me first say thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a great opportunity to be with you tonight. So thank you for having us. And we appreciate the interest that you're showing in our campaign and the people in the District 1 of East Texas. Thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you for stopping by. We're really looking forward to talking to you. So let's get right into it. Okay. So you're a believer in family values. Now, recently, it seems that certain other politicians who profess to believe in family values have lost their way. In the past 2 years, we've seen countless scandals among certain politicians, including allegations of pedophilia, payoffs to porn stars, rampant corruption, and misuse of taxpayer money, including administration members and congressmen making taxpayers foot the bill for their personal luxuries like clothing and vacations. And worse, we've seen a man confirmed to the Supreme Court who was accused of sexual assault. Do you believe it's time to hold these politicians accountable for their actions?
Yes. Let me first begin by saying that is an excellent question. And so I come from a large family. My mother was an only child of her parents, but my father had a very large family, lots of siblings.
Okay.
So I grew up seeing the importance of family values. Now, I know that people will look at family values as something different. What may be family value for you may be different for me. But I look at family values as morality, sometimes tradition, expectations of what my parents taught me. So I have the expectations of what they saw as being family values, the love, the concern, the well-being that we had one for the other. Now, absolutely, we're in a new day and time, and things that I see that are happening right now among politicians, even among the person who holds the seat of the President of the United States of America. When I was growing up, those were things that would not have been accepted from politicians, or would not have been accepted as for people, period.
I know.
Certain positions,
yes.
In the church, even in the church, even in the public schools. As you mentioned, my husband comes from a public school. He's educator, administrator. So therefore, now we're seeing things happening that we never would have seen before.
Right.
And I believe because it's filtered from the top down, they're seeing things that the person who is considered the President of the United States, he told us in his Access Hollywood tape, what he did to young girls.
I know.
And I believe that women are the most disrespected people on the planet.
Yes.
And especially African-American women. I am African-American woman, and I've seen, running as a candidate, I've seen the disrespect from some people toward me.
Wow.
So family values to me is holding people accountable, my beliefs, my morality, my traditions from my family, just being a decent human being, loving and caring. One for another.
Yes.
Those are my family values.
Great. That's a great response. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So,
Thank you.
Dr. McKellar, your husband, as you stated, is a retired educator, and you yourself has been a champion for children for years now. Today, our education system is under attack in many ways, just under assault. I have a couple of concerns that regard to education. The first one being, we have seen school districts in lower income areas woefully ignored by the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. Now, she is in favor of charter schools, but in many areas, charter schools are not regulated. And she favors a system of vouchers for private schools, but the tuition rates of $10,000 per child per year or more, vouchers aren't really a viable option for many parents. Moreover, they do not address the problems of fixing that, in public schools, all of the problems that need to be fixed so that every child, no matter where they live, can have access to a quality education. What are some of your thoughts on how to address the educational needs of our children to give children the tools they need to obtain good jobs in the future?
That's an excellent question as well. I appreciate that question. Let me first begin by saying that I believe in early childhood education. I actually owned an early childhood education school for 20 years here in Smith County. And so I can see that the difference between that early boost that children had when they were able to get an early childhood education in relationship to those who did not. So I'm a proponent of children getting that early boost. Now, as you know, in Texas, we rate number 47 in education as far as our curriculum is concerned, and 43rd as far as finance is concerned. We're actually $2,800 below the national average of the amount of money that each student should get. Now, I'm a proponent of public education. I actually went to a private school very, very early, an early childhood education private school, but I went to public school throughout. Now, I don't have a problem with people having a charter school, and I think that all educational systems should be regulated. But I'm a proponent of public education because that's what our Constitution talks about in regards to education. So we have to improve upon the amount of money that we give per student in Texas. Now, we always talk about Texas being the great state of Texas. And Texas is a great state. But how great are we if we're rated on a C grade level?
That's scary.
We don't accept that really when we don't teach our children to bring a C home. There's not C if that's what you can do, if that's your very best. But we're always pushing students for an A grade level and a B grade level.
Exactly.
So why is the great state of Texas at a C grade level?
And seem to be okay with that.
Exactly correct. And so then Greg Abbott talks about all the great things that he has done for the great state of Texas. So if we're so great in the great state of Texas, we're 49th in voting, we're 47th in education,
oh my goodness,
and we're 49th in healthcare. And I know that you're going to talk about healthcare a little bit, but I think we're 47th in healthcare. But we're at the bottom of the barrel in very important areas. Now, education is the key, is one of my mantras. We have to make sure our children are educated well so that they can compete globally. Because we live in a global society. So they should be able to compete around the nation and around the world.
Exactly.
And we're not there yet. So I'm troubled by what Abbott is putting out in Texas. That's why we have to vote these people out of office that are not working for the greater good of all mankind.
That's it.
Right?
Wow. And secondly, as it pertains to education, what about the outrageous cost of a college education? I mean, our children graduate college and already in the hole. I mean, owing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in student loans. And
Yes.
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm sorry. I did not mean to cut you off, but you're really running down my street about this because
It's
I
so
think
expensive.
I may have mentioned to you that I returned back to college to get my degree in political science before I decided to run for this seat because I wanted to be totally prepared for the job. My parents always told us, whatever you do, whatever your profession is, be totally prepared academically as well as professionally.
Okay.
So when I went back to the college campus, University of Texas, and these students were talking about the debt that they were in, we have the greatest educational system, I think, in the world, probably, we can say, just as I feel that way with healthcare. But here's the problem. We are charging our students interest rates on the money that they're borrowing.
Yes.
I'm a proponent of at least the first 2 years of college for free.
Oh, that would be
at one of the
great.
junior colleges or whatever.
Yes.
I'm really pushing that. And then I'm also pushing that why are we charging these students interest rates? Some of these students pay 8, 10, and 12% interest rates on loans.
Yes.
I mean, even if we had to charge them a little bit, it shouldn't be any more than 2%.
Right.
But I'm saying that we should not charge them any interest rate, and then the first 2 years of college, we should give that to them for free. Around the nation, I have had the privilege of traveling across 35 countries in my career.
Wow.
And I can tell you that healthcare is provided in third world countries or other parts of the world, free education in other parts of the world. We're the richest country in the world.
That's
Why
right.
can we not take care of our students?
That is the question of the hour, seriously, because it's just unbelievable. Oh, that's just.
And we can, because let me take it to economics real quickly, if you don't mind. The students who need this funding are the people of color, poor whites, people of color, because our wealthy counterparts can pay for their children to go to the top-notch Ivy League schools in the country.
So they know who is needing assistance. Exactly. Oh,
there you go.
That's terrible. It's like they don't even want to make education attainable for people, and even people who go back to school that have to go to, say, the for-profit schools, including like the online schools. And for example, Trump University, which wasn't a university at all.
That was a joke, right?
Yes, and they're unregulated, and then they're misleading. They charge all of this money, and they don't even provide the training they need to obtain employment.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. And think about this, and I have to throw this in here if you don't mind, but we have universities, we have 23 schools that had to shut their doors down because there's a lot of schools, a lot of schools that are going toward online. I remember at the University of Phoenix, people were saying, "Oh, that's not a legitimate school," when in actuality, it really was.
It was, yes.
Now everybody, and now we're down to 100 HBCUs. We've had so many HBCUs close, and other colleges and universities have closed them. But we can have a prison built.
Oh my God!
A jail built.
Oh yes.
Open forever and a day.
That's it.
In them,
since they're privatized.
And not keep our absolutely correct. But we can't keep our universities open and our schools open and our HBCUs open so that we can educate students across this nation. I'm troubled by that. That is why. Some more reasons why I decided to run for Congress.
Oh wow! Well, that's great. We really need you in there. But that's a topic that really upsets people because it's so true, and it's like, people are trying to better themselves and get an education, but it's like it's getting further and further from their reach. Although they say, it's right there, just go and do it. It's okay, go get your education. But they make it harder and harder. It's like what?
They make it hard.
So we'll see.
That's true. Well, we have to keep fighting for our students.
Yes.
Because those are the young folk who are going to run this country
Exactly.
tomorrow.
It's the future.
And so, exactly. And they may have to take care of us one day. So why would we not want to get them educated, get them prepared, so that whenever we decide that we may need a little bit of help, they can help us across the street and take us to vote, because we can no longer drive ourselves to the polls. We'll have them prepared, right?
Right.
We gotta reach back and make sure that we prepare. When I leave Congress, I should have someone prepared to walk up and take my place.
Oh,
Some
wow.
female to continue to carry the legacy on.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. And so many people don't think that way, and that could just keep the legacy going on and on and on.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. McKellar, since you are a nurse,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know the importance of health care. So while America has great medical facilities, they are simply unaffordable for many people. So Obama did pass the Affordable Care Act, but while it's not perfect, it did allow a lot of people to obtain health insurance for the first time. But since its passage, Republicans have vowed to kill the Affordable Care Act. And since they were unable to do so, they're just trying to, attempt to dismantle it in pieces. Now, the likes of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have vowed to give more tax cuts to their donors while vowing to kill Social Security and Medicare. They're calling these programs entitlements, I guess, you know what I'm saying? But we pay into Social Security and Medicare. That's our money.
There you go.
And so many senior citizens depend on Social Security and Medicare. And to make matters worse, the medical care costs are spiraling out of control for seniors and non-seniors alike. So what are some of your thoughts on health care?
Wow, that's an excellent one. And I am so glad, first of all, let me say I am so happy that you brought out the fact that this is not an entitlement. Every single paycheck that you get, I've been an employer for a lot of years, and I take out medical and Social Security out of every one of your paychecks before it comes to you.
That's right.
And then number two, let me mention the fact that they were trying to pull down the Affordable Care Act, saying that, well, President Obama said you can keep your own doctor. Well, you should have been able to keep your own doctor.
Yes.
They did this it had nothing to do with President Obama. It had to do with the insurance companies and the doctors that did not allow that, because they were trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act simply because President Obama was the one who initiated it.
Yes.
Let's keep that out front first. And then here in the great state of Texas, where Abbott denied us getting Medicaid expansion.
Yes. Wasn't that terrible?
Oh my goodness. It's upsetting to me, because here's my concept on health care. If we pay and take care of citizens in Texas and this country on the front end.
Yes.
In other words, I believe in preventive health care.
Right.
I believe in you're getting your physical exams once a year. I believe in you getting your mammograms and getting your blood drawn and all of that. If you spend the small amount of money taking care of yourself at the beginning, then you won't worry about a large bill at the back end.
Exactly.
But if you don't have health care, yes, and you cannot afford to go and get these things because you don't have any insurance. And then those, when they finally get sick and they go into the emergency room and they get their health care in the emergency room, that's why also that we have so many hospitals, small hospitals in rural areas, and I live in rural America, East Texas.
Okay.
And so sometimes they're not accessible to health care.
That's
so
right.
That whole piece where these smaller hospitals are closing because people are going into the emergency room and getting their health care rather than them having affordable insurance or they can't. So it's pure greed to me. So we have to bring down the cost. We have the greatest healthcare system in the world.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am. But we got to bring down the cost. And people can still, I'm a healthcare provider. At one time, I retired from the United States Army in 2009, but by the same token, I know that there's enough money that people can still, that healthcare providers can still make money and still not price out the citizens. Pharmaceuticals, I mean, I've seen an injection costs $5,000. Now, what injection?
For one injection?
3 cc's of something that costs $5,000.
Oh my God!
Kimberly,
that's all it is.
Yes, and so it's so unfair to deprive citizens, Americans, of health care by pricing them out because of the cost. And the pharmaceutical companies throw away tons of medication every single day. When I actually was working actively, I would have a patient that did not and could not afford their prescription, and we would do the paperwork and send it into the pharmaceutical sales people and say, look, this patient needs this medication. They got hypertension, diabetes, whatever, cancer, and they cannot afford that injection that you have a $5,000 cost on, or they cannot afford those hypertensive medications. Send them that medication. So we were able to help a lot of
that's great.
Yes, when we had our home health care agency, myself and 2 other nurse clinicians were the first African Americans to own a home health care agency in Tyler, Texas.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yes, so we used to work to get their prescriptions. So that's my feeling about that. And the Medicaid expansion, if we had taken that on here in Texas, we would have been able to provide more health care for us.
Yes. Why would they turn that down? It's like you're hurting the people. You know, that's
you're hurting the people.
Out of your...
They don't care.
That's it. And being vindictive, you know, everything is not about, you know, bipartisan politics. It's really not, you know.
That's exactly right. That's the truth. That's the truth. It's a human life. I was out in Marshall, Texas on last night, and they had a candidates forum, and I was saying, you know, healthcare obviously is a human right, but also a veterans benefit is an American right.
Yes.
Children's education is great education for the children is the children's right. All of these things, these rights are being taken away.
That's it. Our rights are under attack. And it's like they're trying to turn back the hands of time. You know, it's like, are we improving on these things, or are we making them worse? But I guess it's an agenda and work.
Trying to take things away.
Yes.
Once again, that's why I hope that your listening audience is listening about the importance of them getting out to those polls, and especially people of color.
Yes.
We're going to see a great change in this nation if we don't get out to vote. And as you know, the black female has got people elected all across the nation.
Yes.
Her vote is a powerful vote. The black vote itself, period, is a powerful vote.
It really
and
is.
We need to use our ancestors. Did they not die and fight and work to make sure that we have this right, the 14th Amendment and the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which was allowing women the opportunity to vote?
That's
we have to exercise that. And you know something, Ms. Kimberly, we don't have to pay poll tax, and we don't have to ride in a wagon for
That's it.
to get to the poll. We can drive around the corner and be at the polls. Not wrong.
That's true. And
die, right?
That's it. And look what they had to go through, and were there in long lines to get in there. So we cannot take this for granted. That's it. That's
yes,
it.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. Well, let's see. So, Dr. Keller, in your work as a medical professional, you have seen, I'm sure, firsthand the impact of cancer. Now, while certain cancers are now treatable if caught early, we see a number of cases skyrocketing, you know, still the same. So here at Green and Woke, we're concerned with environmental issues. So under this administration, the Trump administration, the EPA has been gutting and even repealing environmental regulations, allowing for like coal debris in our water, as well as toxic chemicals like arsenic, mercury, and even radiation. It's terrible. And the Trump administration is calling for fossil fuel usage, more of that, like fracking and lower car fuel standards, as if that was it's obviously a problem, but he wants to turn back on all of this stuff. So Trump says it'll create more jobs in the industries like coal. But coal has been declining for the last 100 years.
Absolutely. And who wants to inhale coal?
Exactly. And more people are employed at, say, Whole Foods market than in a coal industry. So
exactly.
But on the other hand, green energy is on the rise. So, say 375,000 people work in the solar industry, and that's 7 times as many people that work in coal. So, Texas leads in the nation in the production of wind energy. In fact, Texas can create jobs in solar, wind, tidal, and other renewable sectors. Right. So traditional fossil fuels and other pollution sources have created a state of environmental injustice, if we could say that. So when you look at cities across Texas, like the greater Houston area, Corpus Christi, Beaumont, Port Arthur, you see an impact of the polluters, what they've done on the local population. You see oil refineries and Superfund sites near low-income neighborhoods, which are often communities of color. And pollutants have been proven to cause asthma in children, COPD in older adults, chronic bronchitis, allergies, heart disease, and cancer. So do you think environmental justice is an issue that should be addressed? And if so, how?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let me just say that I believe that the person who said, I call him 45, I believe this guy really does not understand climate change.
Right.
And I have a sister who is a greenhouse builder, and you may want to talk with her someday. She's one of the leading people in this country with greenhouse building, even before it got so well known and so popular. But back to 45, I think that if he really understood the increased levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, and how it produces fossil fuel, if he really understood, if he really looked at the climate change in Texas and how and not even just Texas, but because we live in Texas, but we live on the coastal areas down there, and how the storms are coming. And in 2 days, we're getting ready for another one.
We've had two Category 5s in the last year. It's like, seriously,
there you go.
These 500-year storms are becoming once a year.
Back to back. And the greenhouse gases they're changing the world.
Yes.
They're changing our oceans, and they're changing let's even look at Texas and where we live. And we used to have all 4 seasons back, pretty much on schedule. But, I mean, I saw somebody in short pants. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Here it is. We're about to get into November, and somebody is in short pants.
And flip-flops.
And the increase in humidity and the rainfalls. Look how much rain we have got.
Yes.
And all the storms. Oh my goodness, the heavy rainstorm. And he doesn't understand it.
No.
Because if he did, and I'm not sure that I understand why Republicans don't embrace climate change. They're sitting here observing the change.
Exactly. It's obvious that things are going on that are abnormal here. And he pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Like, seriously? He called climate change a Chinese hoax. It's like, really?
That's exactly right. Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
Well, I tell you, this guy, this administration.
I mean, you're sitting, well, they're sitting in the same environment that you and I are sitting in.
Right.
But they cannot see this.
Yes.
As the weather is changing.
No.
From morning to night. I mean, we can have something in the morning and have something entirely different even in the evening.
That's true. That's so true.
And then don't forget about the droughts that California is having and the forest fires.
The fires, yes. And we've even had fires here in Texas, you know?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
God.
But we like you said, we have enough wind energy. We actually have enough of good, clean energy in Texas to supply the entire nation.
Mm-hmm. We do. Yeah.
When I read that, I was impressed with Texas. Texas is really great. Even though we have, that's why they say, Ms. Kimberly, that Texas is a country of its own. I understand.
Well, don't say that too loudly. They've been trying to leave the union. Let me retry. Right. Don't start that up again, because they were trying to get out of here.
Country all by ourselves.
Right, exactly.
But guess what? If they tried to pull that, there would not be anyone living in Texas because we wouldn't have Social Security.
I know.
We'd all be moving somewhere. Somewhere.
Our neighbor, exactly. Anyway, that is so true. Yes, but it's but luckily, to some of the mayors of cities like Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Marcos, Smithville, some of the other ones, they're moving toward efforts to green their cities. So I just, there are ways that we can combat climate change and protect our communities from extreme weather and create a new green economy, because even if he doesn't realize what's going on, I mean, we're going to have to take this into our own hands if we want to save the planet, right?
That's why I say that Congress and the Senate, not the president.
Right.
He just doesn't know he doesn't run the country. Nobody told him. He hasn't studied anything. No. And certainly not politics. That's why I was so overwhelmed when people were saying, well, I want him because he's a businessman. He doesn't have to know politics.
Wow.
No, wrong answer. That's just
very
like
wrong.
Saying to me, Ms. Kimberly, well, that you can be a nurse, but you don't have to know anything about it.
I know. How scary is that? Oh, my, could you give me a precursor? Tell me. I don't know anything about, doctoring on you. But I know you're here, so just sit here and let me, figure this out. I'll let you know. Right, exactly.
In East Texas, and I don't know. I think you're a Houston lady, but as we say in East Texas, that dog won't hunt. In other words, that won't work.
Exactly.
That's why this is not working with him in the seat of the president.
So, just to give us a reason why people should get out and vote again, because that's so necessary.
Yes, ma'am. We see the country changing. It's been turned topsy-turvy. And so the way we can turn this back around and get us back on track is that we must get out to vote. I mean, the justice that we see is going to be taken away from us. I believe that if we don't do something, this midterm election is the most crucial in the history of you and me, and I believe in the history of modern America. That if we're going to see unfair treatment for people of all races, in particular people of African American race, people of color, and so it's just going to be a change that we're not going to be able to deal with. It's going to be a change that's going to take us 50 years back, because our civil rights are going to be violated. They're already. Look at the voter suppression that we're seeing.
Oh my gosh,
every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh wow. Well, thank you so much. So, Dr. Shirley McKellar, thank you for joining us. Yes. And I wish you the best of luck on November 6th. So we need everybody to get out and vote, if not before then, but November 6th is the day. And we really appreciate you.
Can I give you my final, that I want to encourage those that are out there all across Texas, and particularly the District 1, my first district here in East Texas, that we need to reach back and get our tools from out of our tool chest, our tools of success, so that we can make sure that we have income equality, that the Lilly Ledbetter Act for equal pay for equal work for women will be the same, that we can make sure that our environment and the laws and our policies are regulated. Send the people to Washington, D.C. That is going to fight for the greater good of all mankind. Not just for that 1%, not just even for the 99%, but 100% of the people. And my final thing, Ms. Kimberly, is that just as I served this country in the United States Army, I recognize that there are three colors in the flag, not just blue, not just red, but there's a third color, red, white, and blue. And so we need people working that's going to fight and work on behalf of all the people in the district. And that's not happening in the district where I live. That person who holds that seat is only interested in the 1%, the very wealthy. So we need to have someone who knows how to fight, who's worked for this country already, who's ready to serve again. And that's McKellar for the United States Congress in the 1st District.
Awesome. Dr. Shirley McKellar, y'all heard it here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I have certainly enjoyed my dialogue with you tonight.
Yes,
and I look forward to seeing you once again and talking to you once again. And remember, my sister, Belinda Morrow, that's over there in Atlanta, Georgia, who's a greenhouse builder. You may want to talk to her someday, because she is all about the environment. And keeping things green and clean. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next month for an all-new episode of Green and Woke. And remember to keep it simple, keep it constant, keep it green, and together we can build a better planet.